There are going to be times on this journey that you feel like God has let you down. It does not matter if this is for a marriage promise, a promise for a child, a promise for generational wealth, whatever it is that God has promised you, expect there to come a time or times, thank you, Holy Spirit, when you feel like the Lord has let you down. And what I mean by that is, for instance, I've gotten many messages from a lot of my clients about for those who are in their marriage stand, and it seems like the inevitable happened. The thing that they didn't want to happen happened. And I talked about this months ago. I've even been transparent with this years ago from my journey. Me personally, there came a time when not one, not two, but three different occasions, it felt like the Lord let me down. And what I mean by that is this wasn't like just necessarily at the start of that journey, at the start of that stand. This was me giving God my yes, me doing everything God's way, me trusting God, me following his lead, me obeying God, me submitting to the process, me surrendering through all of that. You would think once you give God your yes and you're in the motions of doing everything that he's requiring of you, like God got your back, right? He does have your back, but there are going to be times when you feel as if he's let you down. And like I said, this happened to me personally on three different occasions. And he does this kind of like I've talked about with Peter. Will you deny him? Will you walk away from the promise? Will you be like Job's wife? Why don't you just curse God and die? He's examining your heart during these times just to see how you're handling it. Are you bitter with God? Are you bitter about the process? Thank you, Holy Spirit. And sometimes some of you have gotten to a place where you're like Naomi, not Ruth, but Naomi, her mother-in-law. Naomi was the one like, call me Mara. God has dealt with me bitterly. And God is checking your posture. He's checking your mood. He's checking your attitude, because this is what you're doing when you get in your feelings when God allows the inevitable to happen or some things to take place. You're basically saying, God, I want what you have for me. I want the promise, but I'm not mature enough to handle it. Because you got to understand that even though God is testing you and allowing some things to happen that you didn't expect, that you didn't prefer, that you did not see coming your way, these are also things not only showing God that you're ready for the next stage, that you're ready for the next level, that you're ready for the blessings. Thank you, Holy Spirit. But you got to understand, even in restoration, I told you guys, restoration isn't just your spouse coming back, isn't just the two of you being reconciled. Like, restoration is rebuilding. So there will come times when your husband or your wife, you're in restoration and they've let you down with some things. You see what I'm saying? But because you were in a previous season when you felt like God let you down and you knew how to handle it, you knew how to rise above it, you knew how to extend grace, you knew how to not be in your feelings and keep moving forward. God was doing that and allowing that to also prepare you for when you do get your blessing. Because if you don't know how to properly handle your blessing, that blessing now feels like a burden. That blessing now looks like a burden. So when you feel like God is putting you in this situation, what is your attitude like? What is your heart like? What is your mood like? Are you angry with God? Are you in your feelings? Because some of you are teetering the fence. 1 minute you're in your feelings, the next minute you're not. Like, you're wavering and you're being double-minded. You basically have to get to a point that you accept that everything that God is doing is preparation for what's to come. It's preparation for what you're standing for what you have faith in, what you're trusting for, what you're believing for what God promised you. You have to get to a place where you accept, I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. I didn't see this coming, but God has not changed his mind. Y'all got to understand, I've said this before, God is not fickle. He's not like us. He doesn't go back and forth. Whatever God says, that's what stands. When God allows something that you didn't expect, when he allows something that you didn't take into consideration, he hasn't changed his mind about what he promised you. He hasn't changed his mind about what he's going to do. He allows those things because, again, he's testing you. Are you ready to go to the next level? Are you ready for restoration? Because, like I said, not only is restoration a process of rebuilding, marriage has a title to it. Marriage has responsibilities. Marriage has purpose and plans, God's purpose and plans. And if you're standing for marriage and you still waver and teeter back and forth every time something happens just in a stand, you're showing God you're not ready for the promise. Holy Spirit gave it to me like this, and I've done this analogy before. Say you are that child that has got your driver's license, and you're basically saying, although I got my driver's license, I don't want just the safer car. I got my license. Give me the keys. Get me a scat pack. Like, I'm just ready to go and eat the road up. I'm ready to tear the highway up. God being that responsible father, I understand that you got your license. I understand you think you're ready for this next thing, but let's start you off here. This is safer for you. This is better for you. You starting with this car will show me that I can trust you, will show me that you're ready for the next car, for the next birthday, or for the next season. You see what I'm saying? So show God. We say God can trust us, but are you showing God that he can trust you? Is your attitude and your behavior and your posture, thank you, Holy Spirit, is that showing God that he can trust you? You know, my heart breaks seeing many of you go through this, but what you're going through is the very thing that I have been speaking about. I'm learning that many times, you know, we come across these messages and we hear it and we don't take heed to it. Oh, that doesn't apply to me. I know I came across these messages that say expect it to get worse and, you know, these things happen and those things happen, and you automatically take yourself out of that equation. That's not going to happen to me. But instead of girding your loins and bracing yourself, thank you, Holy Spirit, my assignment in this season is not to pacify. My assignment in this season is not to just make you feel good. My assignment, what I've been burdened with, what I've been charged with, is to prepare you. So if preparing you means you may be in your feelings, you may be feeling some type of way, it's to prepare you for what's to come. It's to prepare you for something that you're currently enduring or about to endure that I had to sit in, that I had to go through. Now I will say, like I mentioned, 3 times the inevitable happened. The first time I was in my feelings, I was, because again, this was new to me, but God was giving me grace for something I didn't expect, a way that I had never been, something that I had never encountered. I was in my feelings, but I stayed at the Lord's feet. The second time, I handled it well, and it was only because of his spirit. It was nothing in me, but I even learned from the first time. So you would think because it happened the first time and then God allowed something to happen a second time, that means my testing would be over, right? No, God allowed it again. And each time is to see, sometimes it was him showing me my growth, him showing me, thank you, Holy Spirit, my maturity. And I'm not saying this to boast on myself. I'm saying this is what happens when you stay at the Lord's feet. This is what happens when you trust him. This is what happens when you go through the motions, all the motions that you don't like and that don't feel good and that don't make sense. I don't tell you guys these things just because it sounds good. I tell you these things because this is what's necessary to go to the next level. This is what's necessary. This is a part of your process for the promise. I've said this a million times. God's promises, there's like you signing on a dotted line. That's that fine print of terms and conditions that go along with that promise. But you got to come out of that Naomi season where you're feeling like, you know, just call me Mara, I'm bitter. You have to handle it like Job. Job didn't understand why he was going through what he was going through, but he still trusted God. You see what I'm saying? If you keep going all the way back every time something happens that you didn't expect, you're just prolonging the process. Like I said, you're showing God that you're not ready for the next level. So when something happens that you don't expect or that you didn't expect, before you get in your feelings, check yourself real quick. Lord, this must be a test. Lord, guard my thoughts, guard my gates, guard my mouth, close my mouth. Help me handle this your way. Pay attention to what you're in, because many of you, you're reacting and then you're reflecting later. Thank you, Holy Spirit. That was good. You're reacting and then you reflect. Before you react, reflect. This is a test. Hold on, Lord. I don't know if this is you or the enemy, but I recognize this is something that is maybe preparing me for what's to come. It's all about changing your mindset. It's all about changing your attitude. It's all about, thank you, Holy Spirit, unlearning. So you can give the Lord the room to help you to relearn, rethink, and rebuild.